Welcome.
Al Fresco again.
Yeah.
Here we are again.
Episode 2.
Same place.
Yeah. So, what have we got this week?
So today we've got in here, this is just for you actually, Dave. I've got...
Is this because you sent me a picture of this a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, maybe it is, and I know it's
You've
very...
got excited about sharing.
It's very vegetarian.
Yes.
It's very vegetarian.
Because I am a vegetarian.
So what this is, it's basically cauliflower. I just got a cauliflower and chopped it into some kind of chunky things. And then I got some paste. I got some pepper paste and some harissa paste.
Right.
And a bit of za'atar, and I just kind of rubbed it in.
Wait, what's...
It's a Middle Eastern sort of mix of spices.
Okay.
I tried it once, but I tried it with a lid on, and it was kind of moist. It was sucky. It was amazing, but it's meant to be. It's meant to be not with a lid on, so it's meant to kind of go a bit charred. I'm nervous because it's going to go charred.
And are the flames okay to char from the top? Because that's what I learned last time, is about the grilling thing.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think so. I've just shoved a load of wood in there now, so it's not very flamey.
It's very smoky as well.
It's very smoky, it's very flamey.
That's right.
But I think if I just push the fire to the back a little bit, and I'm just going to put this in the entrance.
We'll get rid of it. Let's get. Do we need the foil?
No, I don't think we do actually. I reckon
aesthetically displeasing.
I reckon what we're going to do is this is just an experiment. We're going to shove this in here. It's so hot in there, Dave.
So the snack we're about to eat is an experiment.
Ah! It's so hot. Just even getting your hand in there.
What?
It's just
can we
too
get this?
hot.
There are a plethora of tools down here with which to actually put the food into the oven, and Martin is choosing to use his bare hand.
Well, look,
to do it.
We got one of these through the post. It was bent, so I said, "Oh, it's bent. Can you send me another one?" And they just sent me another one. Didn't send this one back, so now I've got 2.
That happened to me once with Guitar Hero guitar. Amazon didn't want it back.
It's on. So let's have a. Why don't we have a conversation?
Yeah. So we're going to chat and then
we're going to eat this.
What's today's topic?
Today's topic is we're meeting Dave, and Adrian. We're going to talk about race, what it means to be a church leader, but also in the churches, what's been stirred up in their hearts, these guys, when it comes to all these issues of race, and here's some of their wisdom and their experience on it.
Great. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
I am concerned about this.
Yeah.
You know...
Start it now. Let's start. Let's go. Okay. Welcome. Dave.
Hello.
Adrian, if you only were called Dave, it would be really helpful.
But wait,
Adrian.
I'm Dave.
Right.
I mean,
we've got so many Daves
on both ends,
and then we've got.
I feel excluded.
Yeah. Welcome. This is Al Fresco. That's the name of this program you're on. You're on a TV program, and it's about eating together, chatting together, exploring life together and our faith and that sort of thing. We're going to start by talking about food. I'm going to go and get something from the oven that the oven that might be a bit overly charred.
Yes.
So
no. Okay. So I'm
there we
going
go.
to do this.
Do that. What it is. So. Okay. Yeah. Just a moment. I know. Look.
I've got to say, it looks like everything that came out of that pizza oven about 2 weeks ago. It all looked about exactly like that.
In Martin's defence, he did say it was going to be charred.
It's meant to be charred.
Top, so
it's meant to be charred.
This is actually perfect.
This is a Turkish recipe where you take some cauliflower, you rub some pepper paste. I put some harissa in there, some za'atar, and you put it in. It goes all charred. It's meant to be charred. The woman says on the YouTube video. And then it's this beautiful thing. And there it is. It's so mega hot, Dave. Dave's going to taste some.
Can I just say, Dave looks really excited as if he could be the first one to taste it.
He is.
It's going to melt me.
No. Just taste it.
Martin, do you know how hot that pizza oven gets to?
Yeah, it gets to about 400 degrees C. Which is twice as hot as a normal oven. It's on about 350 at the moment.
Oh, wait a minute. That's surprisingly delicious.
Oh, instantaneous.
And it's got a bit of a kick to it. Some heat in
Oh,
it.
yeah, there's some.
Yeah.
Not just the heat, yeah. The char. These guys, they're just cruel.
Can I ask?
Cruel.
Look at that.
Yeah.
That.
Wow. Can I just ask, did you say grace?
Oh.
Well, we haven't. This is food.
Good point, Dave.
How religious are we being?
This is. We're going to say grace, obviously.
I think it's more about being It's more about being thankful than religious. I think.
Yeah, my heart posture is very thankful right now, as you can see from
Me and Dave, we're not proper ministers. You are all like reverends. You're qualified. We're not even qualified to say grace. It would be beyond us.
If you could pray for our souls
Yeah,
right
yeah.
now. That would...
Lord, have mercy.
We brought this cauliflower. What have you brought? Dave Ellis, what have you brought to the Alfresco meal?
If I was at Small Heath Baptist Church now, where I was minister for a number of years, I'd be eating this Jamaican delicacy. Now, it's called saltfish and ackee.
Yeah.
That yellow thing is a fruit that grows in Jamaica. It's beautiful with saltfish fried with tomato and onion, saltfish and ackee. Then these fluffy things that look like donuts are called fried dumpling.
Right?
Yes.
And it's all accompanied with white rice. There's a great debate in the Jamaican community on whether you should have ackee and saltfish with white rice or brown rice and peas. And that's the big debate. It kind of depends where you're from. It's a bit like Devon and Cornwall.
Mm-hmm.
Do you put your cream on first or the jam on first? It's a bit like that. This is amazing. It doubles up as lunch. What makes it lunch is these fried dumplings. It could just as equally be your main course dinner. And then it's washed down with some legendary, fiery ginger beer. Wow. And so that's what I brought to lunch.
Hey, this is
very
good.
Jamaican.
Dave, this is good. This is good. You're too far. We want you to bring that actually here. Dave.
I don't know if you can handle it. When my predecessor, Bill Dixon, had this, he said, "That's the best damn scrambled eggs I've ever had."
I don't cope well with hot stuff, so no, my constitution doesn't deal with it. So I'd probably take a pass on that. But I'm interested by how the distinguishing between lunch. What was it? Yeah. Lunch and what makes it lunch is the dumpling.
Is that all that makes it lunch?
Well, for me, yes.
Oh.
That's what makes it lunch. That fried dumpling is a kind of a breakfasty lunch type of dish.
Okay, so Dave Lawrence, what would you be bringing to the table? Let's have a look.
Well, I would like to bring some of the things that you've just seen, but and just to join the debate, it's got to be with brown rice, red, and pink. The other way, okay? I have to be honest. But if I was to bring anything to lunch, I love Western food, I love all of that, but I've only got a picture.
Yeah.
And it's apple crumble and custard.
Right.
That, for me, is just heavenly. I think it sounds almost... I would have to say, you know what, if I was a prisoner of war, I probably would give out any information you wanted if you gave me that. That's how much I love this. You need to understand. And this is a small picture, actually. I've had to enlarge it, but I can assure you my portion wouldn't be that size. I'm not totally strict on apple crumble. I don't mind apple and blackcurrant.
Okay, so you can mix it up a bit. Very good. Hey, Adrian, what about you?
What would you be doing?
Oh, okay. I've got to join the rice debate just briefly now. So my mum's from Trinidad, and we don't do plain white rice. We don't do brown rice and peas. We do fried rice, and that's the influence really of sort of Chinese and Indian culture in Trinidad. So I would make a big big pile of fried rice, and it would just have vegetables and all different colours of stuffed peppers in it, and just all fried up together. So, and that's actually the best way to have rice. The best way.
Is it?
Okay.
Well,
We've got,
Yeah.
now you're going to have an inter-island rivalry going on. All
Yeah,
the
there
way
is.
through.
Well, there's generally there's generally a bit of rivalry between the small island and where everybody thinks it's just Jamaica is the West Indies, but of course all of these other islands which have got all sorts of mixture
Let's just cut
stuff.
through this. Yeah, we can have it. We'll have a fight later.
This is supposed to be about like you.
It's about love and stuff, and
Yeah, we haven't got onto the fact that one of you is an Anglican, one of you is a Baptist, and one of you is a Pentecostal as well. So there's all that as well going on between us all, isn't there? So, okay, so these are the foods you bring. It would be actually quite nice to bring that all together. I'm thinking a big dish of fried rice. Then we go over to the lunch that Dave brought us. It was very much a lunch, wasn't it, that you brought us there? And then we finish off with custard and crumble. That sounds good to me.
This is what I had for lunch, and there it is. It was, and I don't know what you call it in Jamaica, but we call it blood sausage, so black pudding in Trinidad. But that's just some Scotch bonnet peppers and spinach and beans and some sugar snap peas, mushrooms with a nice egg on top there, just like that.
that is nice. Now, did you make that outside on your kind of outdoor cooking thing?
No, I did that indoors on the cooker.
Right, that is good.
So I wonder if we could talk together about over the last. I mean, there's been all kinds of upheavals across the world in the last few months, but there's something that has been. It feels like a move of the Holy Spirit as well,
where there's been a fresh awakening about racism, and the church has also sort of picked that up and reflected on it. And I wonder if you could just say, each of you, just let's have a conversation about where you found yourself in that conversation and what it's brought up for you. And then maybe we could talk about where are we up to as a church? Because like I said, you're from different churches, so actually you've got a pretty good handle on where the Church of Jesus is in the UK at the moment. And it'd be great to hear from you about what you think that God's doing. So if we head there, but just how did it affect you? Dave Ellis, how did it affect you? What's been going on in your heart in the last few months?
Well, do you know, when I saw George Floyd being choked out on the roads in America by a policeman, at first I thought, oh, there's another black man who's died. And it kind of just hit me at that level. And I must admit, initially, I was quite just numb to it because it's what happens. Then, when I watched it properly and realized a human being was dying in front of me, I was just devastated. Here we are in the 21st century, and black people are still being killed because of the color of their skin. And what really moved me was the young people just going out on the streets and demonstrating, saying enough's enough. And what really got me was two little white girls from Hereford going, Black lives really matter to us. And I thought to myself, well, if those two young white kids who've never met black people feel that black lives really matter to them, I better just wake up and once again feel what I need to feel about what I've seen going on in front of me. And so that has reawakened the passion within me for racial justice.
You said when you first saw it, it was like, oh, here's another one. And then you said it awakened something in you. And I know that Dave Lawrence, you said to me, I've been numb. You used the word numb. And I think that's kind of what you were saying as well, Dave, wasn't it? I was numb, but then there's something been reawakened.
If I'm to be honest with you, I found it when seeing that incident. Yes, I was numb. I was angry, and it caused anger inside of me to rise up. Some of that anger was righteous anger. Some of that anger I don't think was necessarily healthy. And I think, if I'm honest, I struggle sometimes when I see these things, because it kind of causes old feelings that I once experienced, which really hurt me, to kind of raise its ugly head inside of me. And then I have to battle, this is a personal thing now, is I have to battle with my own attitude and how I, in some ways, I'm surprised in some ways I'm not a racist myself. It sounds a bit strange to say that, because of the experience of my father, the experience of my brothers and my sister and myself. It kind of makes you, why, And so that for me was really, really hard. And I think from a spiritual point of view, we have to be very, very careful, because I believe it is, obviously, all of this is evil. And all of it is designed so as to ensure there is a mistrust between people. And it's very interesting, where the people dwell in unity, there the Lord commands the blessing. And so anything that can cause there to be some animosity between us, or mistrust and so forth, means that we miss out on the blessings of God, as it were, because there is a mistrust between us. And so I have to battle these things and to correct my own thinking. And it doesn't help, if I'm honest. In fact, my wife challenged me on this. I think I was sharing this with you, Martin, that, even on Facebook, you watch a video. Once you've seen that video, it flicks automatically to another. And it's so surprising. I haven't selected it. I haven't Googled violence against black people or anything like that. But video after video after video were videos of people who were being abused by others just because of the colour of their skin. And so we have to be so careful that we don't allow it to cause that anger to boil over too much, and cause us then to sin and to go in the opposite direction. But that's been my struggle. That's how I felt. And I think it's so important that we have these discussions, that we can talk it over, we can bring correction to one another. But it kind of brings healing as well, that you can express it and talk it over. Yeah. And so that's how I've been fighting the whole thing, or dealing with the whole thing since the George Floyd incident. So it's a lot of feelings that have come back, of things I've experienced in the past, and I've got to kind of put it back again and say, right, that's dealt with. I can't allow it to take over. Otherwise, I am in trouble.
I think it's interesting talking about, because we know it's obviously very political, but actually we're talking about personal experience here, aren't we? And to remember, this is not just some big political debate that you might find yourself on one side or the other. We're talking people's hearts, like you're saying, Dave, there. And you're using your arms to talk about what's in your heart. Yeah. You were kind of demonstrating what's in your heart, and that's helpful, because it's like, this is me. There is this experience in me, and it's affecting me as a person. Yeah. It's not just something out there that I might join in with. And it's bringing up all these memories and all these feelings, and it's like you say, all this hurt, and having to go through all that again. It's like there's a huge amount to deal with personally here, isn't there? As well as the bigger right political picture that has to be addressed. It's actually it's a personal thing.
Very personal. We can't escape that. And I think that's one of the reasons why we have to have these discussions, because the more that people, it's like, I'm not a psychologist or anything like that, but I understand that the more you let things kind of simmer away, the more dangerous it is. We have to have an open and upfront discussion, because there are people who they may look at, what's kind of good about this is, excuse me for saying it in this way, there's 2 white guys interviewing 3 black guys, okay, so it's really good. It's not just all blacks or just all whites, as it were. It's good that we're doing this and we can talk openly and honestly, without fear of offending one another, because we are in good relationship. And that is what is necessary and what is required if there's going to be any form of improvement down the road.
Great, thanks, Dave. How about you, Adrian? What's been bubbling away in your heart?
I think for me the sadness that came with it all, of a kind of, it's another level going on here, and there's an element of which hope's come as things have really bubbled and rumbled, and there's been a wave that's gone across, like you say, the whole world, where people are starting to recognise this whole area of unconscious bias. That is a phrase now that's commonly used. And that, for me, brings a glimmer of hope in this particular situation, that there is discussion going on. My worry is that where do we do the hard work that Dave Lawrence has just been talking about without almost spoon-feeding people into solutions? It's a heart thing for every single person. And for us ministering in mainly white churches, and where I am in Trenton, mainly white church, although we have people of colour within the community, how do we kind of address that within every heart, not just talking about, when we meet a black person, but actually this kind of unconscious stuff that has gone on for centuries that we are still not really unpicking in any meaningful way. And I think probably one of the other things that came up for me is when did my kids ever talk about this at school? And I can't think of it except for American civil rights, and it becomes a kind of, well, it's over there problem. It's the American civil rights are a result of empire colonialism. It's all part of it, and we're reaping this, and we're not really talking educationally about it either. So, but I do think there's a different feel to this at the moment. There's a wave going on amongst white people that say we need to do something and address it.
Yeah. Okay. So if there's you said it's we can talk about it, but actually, how do we help people see further out, across our churches? You're all church leaders, and you're all shepherds and teachers, and therefore a kind of mandate to help open people's eyes and point people towards revelation, towards repentance, to soul change. What have you thought? Well, you must have thought, but what's the score? Where does it go next? Have you got any? What's your thinking about that in terms from a church leader point of view? What do you want to see happen? What's the next steps?
Well, from my perspective, it has to be that we are not fearful in talking about it. I'm sure I can use my own church here and the people in our church, and I need to state our folk are great. They're just superb guys. But I was thinking, how do we tackle some of these things and make people aware of what's going on? And I showed a teaching from someone who I really like, his Bible teacher. I really think he's a very good communicator, Robert Morris, and it's entitled Misunderstandings, I think it is, and it is about race. And I deliberately showed that video because, one, he was white. I don't know if I can verbalise this, because I didn't want it to be, if it just comes from me or from another person of colour, it looks as if, we're beating our own drum, we've got a axe to grind. So I thought I would just kind of have this guy who's a very good Bible teacher having the teaching on race. And I think it's very important that it becomes a part of our curriculum. That's the only way forward. I remember when I was a little kid in a church, it was a fairly large church in London. I think it's the first church I ever went to in Upton Park. And it was predominantly people of colour, but all the leaders were white. And obviously racism took place then, but it was never addressed within the church. It was never, as far as I was aware, it wasn't addressed from the platform, it wasn't talked about and so forth. And I think if we're going to go forward, it has to be something that we address on a regular basis in our churches, not just black churches or from black leaders and so forth, is it is some sort of token thing. It has to be discussed and talked about in our teachings.
I don't want to spend all my time being a colour. I'm a person at the end of the day. When I came up to Birmingham, I ploughed on with getting on with the church and doing my church things and being involved in different things in the Baptist Union. But I just didn't want it to all be about colour. Subsequently, I think I've been a bit quiet on it.
Right.
And yet the things I was involved in the past, like going out to a racial justice conference in Atlanta, being in Martin Luther King's church, singing We Shall Overcome One Day, then I was really fired up for racial justice, listening to Coretta Scott King talk about her husband's work, going to Birmingham, Alabama, to 16th Street Baptist Church, or 16th Avenue Baptist Church, where those young black kids were killed when white supremacists lobbed dynamite through the church window while they were having Sunday school. Across the road from it is this amazing civil rights museum that talks about the difference between black and white. But you did get to the stage where you don't want to just define yourself by that alone, but that you want to crack on with doing what you feel the rest of ministry is about as well. But I read Kate Coleman's piece that said, "Are you mad?" And when I read it, I thought I better read it because Kate read it. It said, "Are you making a difference?" And 20 years ago I was making a difference. I'm sure I've been making difference in drips and drabs over the 20 years. But I thought it's now time to sit up and really make a difference. And we're going to be starting a Baptist Justice Hub called Making a Difference Justice Hub.
Right.
And we're going to tackle racial justice, gender justice, and disability justice. Okay. I can't stay silent anymore.
Right.
How about you, Adrian? Are you, where does it fit with you and in the diocese and?
It's quite interesting. A few years ago, we had a new Bishop of Lichfield who came in, and he's kind of gathered the Black, Asian, and minority ethnic kind of clergy together. And we've actually started meeting together quite regularly just to talk about stuff, not to particularly do anything with it at the moment, but just to get relationship between us. And that's been wonderful. And of course, you also realise what a spectrum of coloured skin we are. And, I'm sat there looking very pale compared with some people, but we have got a lot of common ground. And we, from right the way across the globe, we're represented in the Anglican Church. And of course, I don't know if you knew, but the average Anglican is a 35-year-old Nigerian woman. That's the average Anglican person for the whole of the world, and you just think, gosh, that does not come across in the Church of England. But we're meeting together talking. I want to pick up what Dave Lawrence said about teaching, and I think this is probably because I'm a background of a teacher as well. There's something about enabling people to do their learning. But I think I said something about not spoon feeding people. I think there's something really important here about, if our congregations are to really do the heart thing, it's like when we preach about tithing, but until they kind of it happens and God kind of changes hearts, then things happen. And for a lot of people, it's going to be they need to pick up the books in their own time. They need to be reading the articles. They need to be watching the clips. They need to kind of put the energy into learning and changing, because we can do it and we need to do it and address stuff from the pulpit. But it's the kind of, when I go home and I'm back in the usual situation, how am I going to change the way I think? How am I going to do this stirring up the unconscious stuff that I've just lived with, so that when black people come into my church, we're not thinking that's unusual. We're just thinking, fantastic. This is more of what the kingdom of God should be like. We're not asking the questions, where are you from? Even though they may have just come from around the corner, that carries a lot of weight with it as a question for black people coming into our churches. We're saying, it's just wonderful to have you here. We're so pleased you're here. Let's talk about what we share in Jesus.
Great.
Dave, Alice, there's something you said there that really resonated with me. This idea that at the end of the day, you're not just a person of colour, that you are a person, that you don't want to be thinking about colour all the time. And maybe for a lot of us who are white, that's something. The problem is that we don't think of ourselves as colour because we've never been confronted with the issue, and that's something that we need to reverse. Is that idea that sometimes we actually do need to think of us as being white, and how that impacts, and how do we, make these steps towards sustained education for future progress. Because I've started reading books over the last few weeks because of this. But as it starts, and it will start to drop out of the media because other things will take its place, how do we keep encouraging each other in that learning process of making sure that we can do better, and it doesn't get swept under the carpet again because it doesn't affect me in the same way? So
it's got to be through education. Yeah. It's got to be through learning. It's got to be through what David has said, dialogue. Another thing I realised, I was born in Wolverhampton. Anybody who's ever heard me preach will know that's my second point on any sermon. I was born in Wolverhampton. And, you know, I never learned a thing about a black person in school. Not one thing.
Yeah.
The black people I look to, Muhammad Ali, world champion, boxer, sportsman, Daley Thompson, Olympic champion, John Barnes, footballer, never told that black people did anything scientific, intellectual, philosophical. In fact, because I didn't go to a Pentecostal church, David, I'm really sorry, because he would have made me a much better person. I never even heard black gospel music till I went to London Bible College. Found a tape of Andre Crouch in the bin, put it in the cassette player, listened to the first chords. I went, my blackness has been denied me. You know? That music connected with me instantly. And, you know, so one of the things we've done when I was at Small Heath, we worked in conjunction with Church of God of Prophecy. We started a Black Boys Can. It meant all the mentors, all the men had to go away, learn about black history, black achievers, black intellectuals, black philosophers, and then bring back a program of learning for young black lads so that they would know when they were growing up, black people can do everything.
Yeah.
Anything. And those young men just really just took off to the point where their teachers used to phone us up and say, what's happened to so-and-so? He was getting excluded on a regular basis, now sitting at the front of the class, sticking his hand up in the air and answering the questions and doing his homework. That's because we were able to inspire aspirations in the kids that personally, I as a kid never had.
So yeah, thanks for that. And thanks all of you for kind of sharing your heart and your thoughts on that. It is a bit awkward, and I had a meeting with a couple of guys on a YouTube video that went out last night about the same topic about race, some friends of mine, and it is awkward, but it's so necessary, isn't it, to wade through, to keep having the conversation. So we really appreciate you guys coming on and just chatting with us today about that. And
want to stay in touch, actually.
Yeah.
It'd be really good to see, because for us, I think we want to make sure we keep on and on and on and on and on and go deeper and deeper and deeper. So if you'd be up for carrying on speaking into our church, we would really appreciate it in different ways. We'd really appreciate a continued involvement and your help for us as a church on this.
Yeah.
So to kind of wrap up our Al Fresco program today, we've been having somebody on to do a little bit of music stuff, and so Adrian, would you like to share with us? You've got a track that you've recorded. What is it that you've got for us, and then would you like to play?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. This is a song I've written during lockdown, and it comes from those really, really well-known words in Lamentations, which were, from when I grew up, the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases, mercies never come to an end, they are new every morning. So that's the phrase that goes into my head. But I use as my daily Bible the New Living Translation, just 'cause it's really quite refreshing to read. And I was reading Lamentations right back at the beginning, and the translation for it in there is, I will never forget this awful time, but there's one thing I'll hold on to. The love of the Lord never ceases, and then it just goes, His mercies never come, they are new every morning. And so it just had that phrase, and it caught me when it just said, I will never forget time. And I think hugely important in lament anyway, but it caught me, and it went with me, and I became almost like one of the little repetitive chants. And so I wrote some music with it. It's a sort of thing that you could use within a worship time. We used it when someone died in the church recently. We're never going to forget the awful time. But one thing I'll hold on to, the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases.
I will never forget this. I will never forget this. I will never forget this awful time. I will never forget this. I will never forget this. I will never forget this awful time. But there's one thing I'll hold on to. There's one thing I'll hold on to. This is one thing I'll hold on to. That is true. There's one thing I'll hold on to. There's one thing I'll hold on to. There's one thing I'll hold on to. That's true. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. It's new every morning. New every morning. Steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. It's new every morning. New every morning. It's new every morning. There's one thing I'll hold on to. There's one thing I'll hold on to. Is this one thing I'll hold on to? That is true. Is this one thing I'll hold on to? Is this one thing I'll hold on to? Is this one thing I'll hold on to? That's true. Steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. Steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. Steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. It's new every morning. It's new every morning. Steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. Steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. Steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. It's new every morning. It's new every morning. It's new every morning. It's new every morning.
That was great. That was great. Thanks, Adrian. And Esther. Do thank Esther for us as well.
Of course.
That was beautiful. Beautiful. And what a great, it's always good when we come across and then share a line from the Bible, perhaps from a translation that just
Yeah.
changes everything, isn't it? It's great that. A great little bit of, a great tip for us there, Adrian. Really, really nice. Really nice. So, yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I appreciate that. We've got just a few bits of charred, we've eaten quite a lot. We've eaten quite a lot, really, of the charred cauliflower. And, oh, look at an empty
Where the dumpling?
Right, and you know, if you've got some good recipes for me in my clay oven, I'm always wanting to receive a new recipe. And if you need to get around here and start cooking, just let me know.
We could do a recipe book and then have another income stream for writing Brooke.
Yeah.
Of like doing. That's
But it's all about sharing. Remember? Yeah.
Just need you to sign a waiver.
Yeah.
On your.
Yeah, people want their cousins.
Right. Much appreciated,
Yeah, thank you very
guys.
much.
We'll let you know when this is out. It'll be out on a Tuesday evening in the next few weeks.
Hey, listen. There's one more thing. We're on Songs of Praise on the 16th of August, and Esther's written a song that's been released on this Friday, called "Walking with Angels," and that's going to be on Songs of Praise. They decided they said they never do songs that aren't known, and then they're just like, well, we want to use this song, so it's fantastic.
Fantastic.
So 16th of August.
You heard it here first. Assuming this comes out before the 16th of August.
Well, you could say all of that again and leave out the this Friday, and or you could do alternate versions and say, "I hope you enjoyed Songs of Praise."
That was Esther.
That was you guys, but you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do something with it. Really appreciate it, guys. We'll be in touch.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
See you.
Thanks. Dave, Lawrence, it's lovely seeing you. Dave Ellis, see you again
Good to
soon.
see you, Adrian.
It's really good to see
We
you.
must contact. We must meet.
I know. But
We'll leave, shall we?
Do it, isn't it?
Shall we? We'll go. We're going to go. Leave these guys to it.
Take care, guys. Love
See
you.
ya.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
God
Bye.
bless.
So, that was great, wasn't it? It's like another episode. We've been having a variety of things on the issue of race in the last few weeks. You interviewed a couple of people for the youth.
Yep. So Scott,
Central.
who we all know from Rising Brook, and Sandeep, who I work with.
So it's worth, anyone can watch that.
Yeah, that's on the Youth Central Conversations YouTube
Yeah.
playlist, and and it's the same sort of thing. It's hearing somebody else's story. It personalises it. It's not about. It's not even really about a movement or a political agenda. It's about one-to-one relationships and how we can make sure that we're not upsetting people stupidly because of ignorance, and also from that point, then because it becomes personal, you can start making that wholesale shift towards that societal change, which is what we're all after. It's what we all want to see.
I think
it
that
looks more like Jesus stuff than not.
the personal thing is so much, well, for us, it's so powerful because we've got friends there who are talking out of their own experience, their own pain.
Yeah.
And it's any of us, whoever we are in church, we can go, my goodness, this is it's a human being, it's a brother in Christ. And look, I've got to respond to that. Because we've got to, haven't you? You've got to respond to it. And then you find yourselves in something that is political and is prophetic, but it's because we're talking about humanity and we're talking about this is someone's life. Then you're in something bigger. And Dave Lawrence, I think, said, there's that psalm, isn't there, where if your brothers dwell together in unity, then God commands a blessing.
Yeah.
There's something about if we have conversations like this and we get through our awkwardness and some of our shame or embarrassment or lack of understanding, ignorance, you get through all that and you go, okay, let's talk. Then there's unity, because I think we just experienced unity and fun and respect, didn't we?
Yeah.
God blesses it, and he just blesses us in that conversation and what we're seeking to do.
Yeah.
So we need to keep on talking, don't we?
Yeah. And always around a bit of food.
Always around a bit of food, even a charred bit of food.
Even a charred bit of food.
See, what do you think? See, what I did last time was I put a lid on it, and it was in there, and it kind of boiled. I don't know. It heated. It wasn't burnt. Yeah, steamed.
Bit.
Would that have been better?
Well, like I said last week about the flatbread is, for me, when the carbon hits and it starts to get that burning thing, that is perfect.
Yeah.
Not too much.
No.
And I think that's, if you look at the ratio, it's kind of like an iceberg, isn't it?
It is, actually.
Just the tip is charred, and then
Yeah.
the rest of it is all meaty and lovely. So, well done.
Okay, great.
Well done. I would give this a...
Compared to the other times you've had this cauliflower, this Turkish cauliflower dish.
Relative to the flatbread, which was an 8.5, I think I'd go 8. I would smash the flatbread anytime. It was just, that's my thing. This it's the spice that.
Yeah, I know,
me,
because you're not. Yeah.
Like other people, spice.
Yeah.
Pucker, but not
No, I get
not
that.
for
I get
me.
that. Okay.
Not too much anyway. As a nice side. Anyway, thank you again.
Yeah.
For watching all the way to this point, where we just go into nonsense, which is fine. So next week, what do we got?
More food.
More food, more
next
chats,
time. Yeah.
more music,
Yeah.
and more of Martin burning himself on his
That's
pizza
right.
oven. So thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you again.
Yeah.